Hello, everybody. Welcome to the workshop. I'm just waiting for the loading thing to finish. Okay, welcome, everybody. Those who are catching live or on the replay. So, I think we've all had that moment of looking at our bank account and feeling like anxiety or anxiousness about, like, if we're gonna have enough money or meeting like deadlines, rent, that kind of thing. Unless we've come from like a more privileged background, I think most of us, hello Diego, hi Paint. I think most of us have felt like that, constriction in our stomach about like just feeling we're not going to get our basic needs met. So I think, I think this money is like really, it's pervasive in our lives. And I think it's worth like really examining our relationship to it, what kind of programs we've inherited. And this is what this workshop is about. So it's going to be kind of looking at it from a psychological framework as well as a metaphysical framework. So I'm going to open with this anecdote about something that happened like during the height of COVID, which I might have shared on one of my workshops before, but it's definitely relevant for this workshop. So yeah, like I, was planning on getting like a summer job. I wasn't working at the time, and I was planning on getting a summer job, and then COVID hit, and I was like, well, I'm not sure if I'm gonna get a job or not, and things are a little bit uncertain as to like how things are gonna go. And I was in like this course at the time called Ritual is Justice, and that course was all about like somatic work, ancestors, earth connection, and I learned this meditation about melting into the earth kind of thing. And so I got like this intuitive hit to go to like a park and just like meditate and just kind of feel like the security of the earth holding me. So yeah, I went and like did a lot of reflection, went to the park and did a lot of reflection. I did the meditation of melting into the earth, like, and I really embodied the feeling of being totally supported and secure and that everything was like all taken care of. And so I did this meditation and I felt really good afterwards. And as I was leaving the park, I ran into somebody who actually gave me a job lead for a really cool job. And yeah, the rest is history. I got the job, and it was a visceral reminder of like how when like we shift something within ourselves, like we can often notice the shift in our reality as well. Um, I think because we like you can look at it from like a metaphysical perspective or even like a psychological perspective of like what we believe is what we see because of our cognitive bias. So if we're programmed with scarcity, survival, that we just have to like that there isn't enough to go around, that's what we're gonna see. But if we take steps to kind of shift that, then we can start to see different things or notice things that we wouldn't have necessarily taken into account. So money is symbolic, right? Back in the day, it was used for, like money wasn't a thing. It was all like goods and services. I have two goats, you have five chickens. I know that's probably not the exchange rate for animals, but like, it wasn't necessarily like this paper. Paper, if you presented like $1 to them, like people back in the day, it would have been useless. Like, what can I do with this paper? It's nothing. But, money is what it is because we assign this value to it, right? So back in the day, all of the goods and services, like the primary goods, came from the earth, right? The earth was the original blueprint for abundance and being taken care of and being resourced. And over the millennia, we've kind of gotten abstracted out of like this primary connection to the earth. And that's why I find it like this abstraction and like this disconnection, I find is part of the reason why there's like such a lack of security that we feel in today's society, is because we don't have like that original blueprint of being safe and secure and natural abundance. Like if any of you have like gone foraging, you know that like when you hit like a berry patch, there's so many berries. It's like you can't even take it all, right? Um, and yeah, like even in hunter gatherer days, like there would be no use in like hoarding the bounty for yourself because there's no refrigerator, so it would just be shared amongst everybody. So I kind of want you to keep this in mind, like as we talk about like the other concepts, is that like nature is a really great blueprint for how abundance and security should feel. Like it's like the most natural and authentic baseline, right? So I'm going to continue to talk about mental programs that we can have regarding money. So it's kind of going off the framework that, you know, we as children, we pick up beliefs from our surroundings, society, and our family. And then this becomes our model to reality as we grow up. So here's the question for you guys. What kind of models for money did you absorb growing up? Did your parents fight about money? Was it something they never talked about? Did you feel their stress about money? Did they say anything about rich people? Did they say, oh, rich people are selfish or, you know, they're greedy, whatever, what have you? Or was it the opposite? Like people think that you only have negative money programs if you are poor, which is like it's very likely, but you can also have negative money programs if you're privileged as well, but you probably have better programs. So if you grew up more privileged, did you grow up with like that money isn't your worth, or that you should look down on people who don't have money, um or that money matters more than, you know, spending time for your health or your family or your friends? So I think just take a moment to kind of consider what was the modeling for money and what kind of messages did you absorb growing up? You can like maybe take a minute to just think about it or write it down. Okay. And now, how is it? Do you notice any connection between your relationship with money back then and money now? Another thing is like, what is your relationship to money now? What do you use it for? What are the things that you spend the most money on? I and like if when you go to look at your bank account, like what do you feel? Do you feel constriction when you have your bank account? Do you feel security? Do you use money to spend when you have a bad day and to self-soothe? Or do you have this feeling there's not enough and you like save as much as you can and you don't give yourself a treat every once in a while? So yeah, these money programs can be very or you know, if you grew up privileged, do you feel guilty about having money and you know you don't keep much of it? As soon as you earn something, you spend it, kind of thing. There's so many kinds of programs that we can have our money. I can't possibly cover them all, but I think it's just worth it to kind of think about like, okay, what was my modeling for money growing up and finances growing up, and what is my model for it now, and what is the connection? Um, do I have an avoidant relationship with money? Do I have an anxious relationship with money? You know, you can kind of look at it from different frameworks, right? So that's like something that'll be good for your own self inquiry to think about this. The other thing is that I'll give another example that I did talk about in one of my posts is that what what we kind of observe growing up can sort of be our threshold for what we expect in terms of like how good things can be or how bad things should be or whatever. I talked about how, you know, growing up, like I kind of formed like an emotion, like not I didn't talk about it in this video, but like in like one of my previous posts, I talked about like how I formed like this wall around myself to avoid like intimacy. And so in a sense, like I kind of was growing up in survival mode for a lot of my life. And only in the past couple of years am I undoing that survival mode and becoming aware of that survival mode. So I actually, when I did some theta healing on myself, I realized I had programs around it's not safe to be happy, not deserving to be happy, not worthy of being happy. Even though I did feel happy in that moment, I was still like, because I was so used to survival mode, I wasn't allowing myself to go past that level because it was unfamiliar. So think about like if you did grow up, not even because my personal background is that I actually grew up pretty privileged, but I still had this program of like, um, it's not safe to be happy, and that was preventing me from advancing in my business. As soon as I cleared that programming, I actually received a lot more clients the next day, and I definitely see that as a correlation between clearing this program and making like a new portal for abundance to come through. Because here's the other thing is that like I think we can feel like society it can be very oppressive and we can feel very victimized by it. But at the same time, it's what keeps the societal programming and traumatic programming going is that we've taken it on as like reality. So if we can undo that, then we let go of the victimness, and we understand that we actually have a lot of sovereignty in these matters. So if we're going to apply this to like another example of if you've grown up in poverty, which is something I mentioned in my previous post as well, part of you might feel unsafe going past that economic level because it'll feel unfamiliar. You might not feel like you deserve money, or that's safe to have money, or et cetera, et cetera. Or you might have like this belief that you might have absorbed society's um, negative beliefs around poverty, like poor people are lazy or whatever, like these kinds of things. So yeah, like another thing point to consider is like how deserving and worthy do you feel of having money, of being successful, of having the life that you want. You know, another way that you can look at if you have resistance to receiving abundance and money is like to think about for a moment. So for those watching, let's just take a moment to like close your eyes and envision like your dream life, the life that you have the car, you have the house, you have the friends, the partner, whatever. Just imagine like that life right now and what it feels like. I'm gonna give you a moment to do that. And I want you to notice if you when you bring up that reality, do you notice any kind of constriction in your body? Like your stomach is tight, your throat is constricted, or wave of like maybe a really subtle form of anxiety comes through. Um, that's your sign that you probably have resistance to receiving the kind of life that you want, including the kind of finances that you want. Okay. Yeah, so that's definitely a line of inquiry, right? And just got some more ideas of examples of programs that you can have. It's like, you might not allow yourself to receive money because you feel like you can't trust yourself with it, or that you will have to become more responsible and you don't trust yourself with the responsibility, or having more money means I'll have to work harder. That's another thing is that like we live in a capitalist society that values like hard work, like it's like I'm only worthy if I'm productive and I'm working hard, and things can only come from working hard, right? It's like kind of the puritanical imprint. But I've got to say personally, like if I'm going to go back to the example I gave at the beginning of this talk, is that traditional advice would have said I need to put my nose to the grindstone, send out resumes like left and right. Um, they would have never told me to go to a park and meditate to get a job, but like that's what I did, and that's how I got a job. Like sending out my resumes into the black hole of doom would not have been as effective as just like being in tune with myself and with my intuition. And that wasn't hard, right? It was just like being in alignment with myself and following the nudges. So I think like we're programmed that things have to be hard, and that can also block us from having like an easier time with money. It can also keep us stuck in survival mode. So that is really something to look at as well. Like, do you feel like you have to work hard to get what you need, your basic survival needs, or just like to just be good enough in general, right? So like the money programs, it goes on several levels, right? Safety, worthy, deservingness. Those are like the enoughness. Those are like the basic levels, but there's a lot of different categories you can fall under. Okay, So, I wonder if I have any. Oh yeah, zero sum thinking. So yeah, like if we're going back to if we want the original blueprint for abundance, if we look to nature, it's not like if like you can kind of look at zero sum thinking might be accurate in like a really small context, like if this chipmunk eats this berry in this particular area, then another chipmunk can't eat that berry. But then if you zoom out, there's like lots of berries like everywhere else, right? Like zero sum thinking is this idea that like if someone else has something, then I don't have it. There's less for me, and this is an illusion if we kind of look at the bigger picture that there is actually enough for everybody. Um, yeah, in terms of jealousy as well, like maybe we feel jealous of like other people's wealth or success, and jealousy basically means that like that whatever we're jealous of, it's available for us, but for some reason we don't believe we can have it, or yeah, we just don't believe that we can have it or it's available for us, but it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't feel like that activation. So I always think like to look at jealousy as a really good sign. Um, I mean, there's a different context for jealousy, but in this context of like someone having what you want, I always think of it as a sign that like it's possible for you, and that like you just have to clear that part of you that believes it's not possible. And yeah, so this idea of like shifting what is possible, right? We need to kind of like go outside of we what we've been taught and kind of look at other examples to show our subconscious like what is possible. This is something that To Be Magnetic, that work really talks about a lot. It's called an expander. It's like, you might not believe something is possible for you, but if you kind of surround yourself with examples of people who are doing it, then that can kind of shift your perception. Okay, very conflicting and magic. Yeah, yeah, that can definitely create something if it's like the beliefs are kind of canceling each other out for sure. Yeah. So okay. So what I'll do right now is I'm gonna talk about like how to shift like the constriction feeling you might feel in regards to money, and then yeah, we can do some on the spot energy healing after that. So if you guys have like some beliefs that you know that you have that you would like to shift, then you can write it in the chat, or I can just like download some like general beliefs, and then yeah, like it'll be pretty simple. So okay, but yeah, so for the energy healing part, how that will work is like you'll need to give your consent to have the beliefs downloaded. Okay, so yeah, so once we get to that part, we'll get to that. But just giving a heads up that you'll have to write in the comments like yes, I consent to downloading this belief, and then I can download it for you. Okay. So okay, now I want to talk about like um, shifting the energy of the constriction, like as it arises. So as the example I gave is like I felt kind of unstable and insecure about like my financial future. Um, and so I shifted it by, going to nature and like feeling security of the earth. And then once I shifted that within myself, my external reality reflected that. So like a really basic way you can do this is like, when you like I know it's really common for a lot of us to feel afraid of looking at our bank account, but it's so important to kind of face that fear and like and be able to look at our bank account like maybe if it's negative right now, get it to like neutral, right? And then maybe after that, we can get it to like feeling really good about our bank account, no matter what is in there. Which I know it might be a tall order, but it is definitely possible. Okay, so yeah, okay. So for those of you who feel like a constriction when you open your bank account, just imagine like you can even open your bank account now if you want to be really ninja with it, but like um, yeah, just imagine you, or maybe just in general, like when you think of something around money that has you feeling constricted, just like bring up that feeling right now. Bring up that constriction right now. Okay, where is that constriction? Because the paint is saying the examples you gave me really resonated and I won't be able to handle it. Make me a bad person. Yeah, I think that's really good that you're getting like those insights, Paige. So thank you for sharing that. Um, yeah, okay. So, right. So when you bring up like that feeling of constriction over money, like where is it in your body? Try to locate that feeling of constriction in your body right now. For a lot of us, it will be in our root because money equals safety and security, right? So it'll be in our stomach. It might be in our genitals. It might generally just be in like the lower part of our bodies. But yeah, it could be anywhere. You might even feel it in your throat. So just yeah, just feel that constriction. Okay, really put your awareness on the constriction. Oftentimes, what constriction needs to relax is actually just awareness put on it. Okay. Now I want you to imagine. Okay, I'm going to give you a couple of different options for transmuting this, but the first option I'll give you is the earth energy option. So I want you to imagine that constriction melting into the earth and the earth absorbing that constriction for you. You can imagine a cord right from the base of your spine all the way to the center of the earth. And that cord is just pulling that constriction, that unsafety, and transmuting it and replacing it with security, knowingness that all is well, that you are taken care of, and that you are supported. You can take a couple of deep breaths as you do this. Okay, so that's one method of doing that, right? Just like bringing like the earth energy into your core, so and like letting it transmute. The other thing you can do is just like gain bring to mind like a feeling of safety for yourself, right? So, what I like to do to really like hammer in the feeling of safety is I like to like rub my back and then just say, I'm safe. I'm safe. I'm safe. I am supported. So yeah, that's something you can do like if you notice yourself feeling like activated regarding money. And to really like kind of ground that into your being, you can also do EFT around it. So I'll just give a really quick example of some EFT that you could do. By the way, for those who don't know, EFT stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, and it is based on traditional Chinese medicine. So shout out to the Chinese ancestors for bringing their awareness and knowledge to the West. Okay, so yeah, I'll just give it a really basic thing that you can do with EFT to kind of shift that feeling. So okay, with EFT, you start at the cardiac point. So even though I feel really stressed and anxious about money, and I'm not sure if I'm gonna make my bills, and that has me feeling so anxious, and I feel like I could manage my money better. And when I look at my bank account, I just feel like this pit in my stomach, and I feel so stressed. But even though my money worries have me feeling so unsafe and unsure about my security, especially with this uncertainty with COVID, even though I feel anxious and stressed and unsafe, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. I choose to release this feeling of stress, anxiety, and worry, and unsafety, and replace it with the knowing that I'm safe, I am secure. I've handled money stress before, and I've always made it through. I know that safety is a feeling I can access within myself always. I choose to access that feeling now. I choose to fully understand and know deeply that I am safe and supported, and that things will work out even if they feel stressful right now. Because I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. Okay, just finish off the tapping and do a big inhale and exhale. Okay, so that was just like a really quick example of something you can do. If you want to personalize it for your own taste, you can go into specifically what you're feeling, all like the negative feelings and fear and anxiety and whatnot. And yeah, personalize it to what feels real for you. But that's like a framework and a general guideline that you can use if you notice yourself feeling constricted and stressed during money. Okay, so yeah, other ways that, so like, as you might notice, like, I'm not offering any like, hey, are you low on your bank account? Here's how to whip up some quick cash. Like, I'm not necessarily giving anything of that. Um, what I am giving you is just a way to like shift the feeling within yourself so that you feel better. And like, um, like that might not change your reality immediately, but that will help you be more resourced so that you can interact with money in a different way and like, yeah, just navigate reality in a way that has so that you have more resources, inner resource at your disposal. And with all these, I know that like inequality exists, and like the system is fucked up in so many ways, and I don't want to negate any of that. It's just like here's just like I'm just offering like here's something that you have the power to do, that like no matter what is going on, you can always shift how you feel within yourself, and that allows for greater opportunities to shift that outside world as well. Okay, so yeah, what else do I want to say? So yeah, like I think that the gist of that is like notice yourself when you feel stressed and anxious around money, and just shift it in the moment, however you can. And another way that you can shift it is, I know it's cheesy, but gratitude is like it's a very powerful tool. So I have a list of gratitude things on my phone, and I always like I have my morning practice. I do the gratitude for my morning practice, and I also so yeah, you can also use that when you're feeling like scarcity and lack. It will be a good way to ground and kind of shift out of that mindset. Um, like even thinking about breath, like breath is available to us 24/7, and with COVID and the lungs, like it's really hammering the point that like breath is so precious, and it is so abundant, and we're so thankful to be able to have like the inhale and the exhale. I think looking at money metaphysically, like in its purest form, it's energy, and energy likes to flow in and out, in and out, in and out. And I think like going back to the breath is a really good way to ground like into that knowing, that the abundance is within you. Your body, the fact that your body is functioning, your cells and your microbiome is all working together for you. I think that is a really abundant thing to be reminded of. So, like I know that's cheesy, but I always love to be like going back to the body and the breath. I always find it to be grounding and helpful to keep things in perspective. Um, Yeah, the body and the earth. Those are really good ways to kind of like look at things in like both the micro perspective of the cell and how it's working for you, and the macro perspective of the earth and how it's working for you and supporting you. Okay, so I will use this moment in time. Does anybody have any questions? So I can answer some questions before we go into the downloading portion, the live energy healing portion. Okay, so we have no questions. Then, for those of you who want the live energy healing, just please comment yes in the comments right now. There may or may not be a lag, so... Oh yeah, you're welcome, Paint. Okay, Paint says yes. Okay, great. So, okay, Paint, do I have your permission? So, okay, actually, before I do that, let me give a brief explanation for how data healing works. So, data healing is basically my role as a healer is to kind of witness the. It's kind of going back to that I was saying, like, if you hear a tree fall in the forest and no one's around to hear it, it doesn't make a sound. The role of the healer in theta healing is to actually just observe the healing take place. And okay, yeah, no problem, Diego. Thanks for attending. Um, yeah, okay. So how theta healing works is that like basically I witness the healing take place, and what is actually who's actually doing the healing is like universal consciousness and source, God, whatever you like to call it. Like that is the energy that is actually doing the healing, which makes it like I mean depending on what your beliefs are, yeah, that's what makes it powerful. Okay, so paint. So yeah, and then like what like I connected to the connect the person who's getting receiving the healing to the data state, and then from there they can receive the downloads. So paint. Do I have your permission to connect to the data state? Okay. So all right. So I'm just gonna connect to the data state. Okay. So paint. I'm gonna go off of like your previous things that you we're gonna let's do things around you won't be able to handle it and that you'll make you a bad person, okay? So paint, is it okay to release the belief that you won't be able to handle money um, and that money makes you a bad person and replace it with um, you can handle money and you know it's possible to handle money, you know how it feels to handle money, um, and that you know how to do this now? Actually, let me backtrack and it's a kind of a work in progress to do data healing over Facebook Live and comments. Let me backtrack a bit. Okay, so I'm gonna just do one belief, work on one aspect at a time. So, paint. Can we release the belief that you won't be able to handle money and replace it with um, that you can handle money that it is safe to handle money. You're worthy of handling money. You are deserving of handling money. You know how to handle money. You know how it feels to handle money, and you know how to live your day-to-day life handling money. If all of those sound good to you, then just say yes. And the reason the list is so long is to cover it on all of the different angles. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download that. Okay, I just saw like an image of you like being like, oh my god, I can handle money, and like you're like having fun and like kind of playing in stashes of money. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so now we're gonna download the other one, which is that money makes you a bad person. Okay, so Paint, can we release the belief that money makes you a bad person, and that replace it with I can have money and be a good person at the same time. Paint says I could smell wood. That's interesting. Wonder what that means. Okay. Okay, so that one's done. Okay, so Paint, thank you for being the test bunny, and yeah, like so yeah, and I think it's really awesome that you have like this awareness because that's like the first step in transmuting it. So I have full faith that you can go ahead and like transform your money programming into something that's really more liberating and life enhancing for you. And yeah, that's like a little snippet of something like of downloads, but typically in a sesh you would go really deep. Like for example, you said that you had the belief that money makes you a bad person. I think like unpacking bad and good and like being a good person, being a bad person, that's like a really heavy set of programming, and money falls into one aspect of that, but it's actually like really layered. And so like in a theta session, we would go dive into that as well. And it's something that you can explore too. Is kind of collapsing like matrix morality and like attachment to being like a good person and attachment to like not being a bad person. Like that is something worth uh, an avenue to worth going down. But yeah, like yeah, for everyone who attended, thank you so much. And I'll just give like a little recap. So, um, yeah, so money is symbolic and it reflects our programming that we received from as kids and society. And the organic blueprint for money, you can look at Earth and how abundant it is, and you can look at your body and how abundant it is. Like depending on your various like health stuff, but like breath is abundant. So like looking at like these templates for like a more holistic understanding of abundance can help you have a healthier template for money itself. And if you want to like look at your programming regarding money, look at your childhood, what your models for money was growing up, and look at your relationship to money now and see if there's any parallels. And think about like, if you have everything you wanted, do you feel any constriction in your body as you think of that thought? Yeah, you're welcome, Paint. Um, and so to shift it moving forward, it's downloading new beliefs and also shifting the feeling of constriction whenever you feel it into safety, security, um, ease, right? As well as practicing, gratitude and like noticing more like the abundance in everything. So, yeah, I feel abundant because of Nerds for Healing and the awesome community here. So, thank you for attending. And if you want to support my work, you can e-transfer Nerd for Healing. That's number four. Nerd number four healing at gmail.com if you want to leave a tip. But other than that, I hope you have an abundant day, abundant week, and that that you have a lot of tools for transforming and up leveling your money programming moving forward. Okay, take care, everybody.